Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
Back at you in Gloves Off, and today I got a great guest, and I consider him my brother, but he's one of the most humblest, most effective martial art instructors there is Guro Carlito Bonjoc. How we doing, my brother? You doing good?
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the kind words.
It's the truth, coming from the heart. It's the truth, and we meet a lot of people. We meet a lot of people within our travels, and there's just some people that have that energy that others don't, and that's just the way it is. Not saying that others aren't good. They're just certain energies that are passed on, and you've been truly blessed.
Well, you know what, man? I think it's just because like you and I, we love the art, and we respect it. We respect its tradition, and we also seek to find out what works, and so I think those are the things that those are the things that are important to me, and that's what I share. And and you can only do what you do. You can't what do you call this? You can't make people like what you do. You can't make them dislike it.
You're absolutely correct. And you just have to teach it just what you've learned. There's no making up of anything. You just go forward. Really, and it's what gets me is a lot of people want to question a lot of things. Well, you just learned what you learned. Go to school and you'll learn the same thing. It's not that hard, but it's a lot of martial arts have been around for a long time, and there has been a huge growth in the Filipino martial arts. I would say before everybody knew it, it's either escrima, arnis, or kali, and you basically heard those names late 80s. 90s, Kali was a little bit more. Now it's FMA. Everything is FMA, and it's really gone wild, which is great because a lot of people know it. A lot of people know that the Filipino arts are out there. If it wasn't for you all, especially from Stockton and California, basically pushing it out towards the rest of the United States and abroad, it would have never gotten there. But there's a lot of stuff that people always want to find out from historical purposes or why, and they'll always say, escrima was very close knit. Why would you say that was close knit? Why would you say it was very close quarters in the beginning?
Yeah, I would think the reason why is just because it's for most in our traditional way of practice, it wasn't commercialized. It was handed down from family, from father to son, and then shared with friends that have the same interests, and so in a brotherhood kind of way, and so it's very, that's the way it was. I mean, for most Filipinos, as far as when you mention martial arts, they don't think about Filipino martial arts, man. They think that back then, they would think about karate and judo, and I think part of it is the colonization, the colonized mentality. It was we were told we were suppressed by our conquerors, of what our way of thinking was wrong, so that was ingrained into our way of thinking through education, and so that's what conquerors do, and so we had those issues to deal with, and so because of that, you know, for most Filipinos, after first it was the Spanish rule, and then after the Spanish-American War, it was the American rule, and so, you know, it's just, you know, it was like the culture was like, oh, okay, this is from outside, this is gonna be better, right? And this native stuff, you know, it's inferior. You know, that's the way, you know, we were taught to think. You know, and then so for the ones that had these martial traditions, it's a warrior tradition. It was a different mentality. You know, me as a teacher, you know, they would, you know, they're thinking, well, I'm responsible for my family. This stuff works. We use it in battle. Okay, this is tradition that's ours, and it's going to stay with family. See what I'm saying? You know, and then so, but the rest of society, they weren't looking inwardly. You know, and I mean, in the early to mid 1900s, you know, or early 1900s, before World War II, you know, and even after that, you know, their parents didn't want their kids to learn martial escrima, especially, you know, and then so the, you know, so, you know, the thing is that, oh, those are for the uneducated, they're you know, they're drunkards, you know, they're gangsters, you know, and you know, and then so it was so it became like hidden, you know, and because it was something, you know, the same thing, you know, like, oh, try not to speak the native language because it's inferior, you know, we want to speak Spanish, or we want to speak English, you know, and we want people to look at us as educated, so we can't speak our culture, you know, and so that was the thing, you know, and so, but then, you know, as these young warriors, as they became educated, you know, they you know, they realize, you know, that because, you know, a lot of the mestizos, they were educated. A lot of their kids, they would send them to Europe to study, whether France, Germany, England, and the U.S. You know, and so when they went outside, you know, you know, they started seeing that there's other cultures from different parts of the world, and really appreciated it, you know, and so and while they're in school, you know, here's some, you know, they're from different countries, different cultures, but somehow they became brothers, and became brotherhood. They became brothers to the fraternal way of education as far as culture. And so the fraternal practice from Europe and the fraternal practice from Asia, they kind of merged together. And when they came back to the Philippines, they utilized it to unite the Filipinos. So that way, because the Filipinos, there were so many different villages, I mean, different tribes, man, and different dialects, and they didn't get along with each other. They didn't mix. And so when, you know, these educated men, they came back from Europe, they said, hey, let's make everybody fraternal brothers. And you know, that's how we unite. That's how they united the Filipinos politically, so that they can create an uprising, first with the Spaniards, and then later on with the United States, when they were promised freedom and they weren't giving independence, and so they used it again. And then so you had this political organization, you know, the Katipunan, and then for the warriors, man, they created something for themselves too, and they created the Dosipari Society, and that was a fraternal brotherhood. And then so that way they were able to share and preserve their martial arts.
Absolutely. And you know, I've heard that before. I also know that a lot of the old masters, we're all Freemasons as well. You know, I'm a traveling man in that thing, and a lot of the escrimadores were Masons in their own regard. Um, what do you think? Because you know, there's certain things that Masons can see or can see from others in the posture and positioning of the way they are. Some of them, you know, they're codes Masonically, if you want to say it that way. And I see it, especially in some of the old pictures of your teacher, Grandmaster Angel Cabalas, and Grandmaster Leo Buitron. You see those positionings there, and you know that they were traveling men. And also, Gilbertino was also a Freemason as well, and many Freemasonry doesn't have a warring side of it, but a lot of people always claim that it was Templar in nature, of the origins way back when in the Crusades, that the Templars were the ones that basically brought forth what it is modern Freemasonry. Can there be a sub system of fighting within there that was lost long ago? Maybe so. Who knows? I don't know. Well, there's nothing ever documented that way. There's speculation that it could have happened. You see a lot of connection of that in Savad as well. A lot of the old professors of Savad, especially in the 18th century, the majority of them were traveling men. So there is a lot of connections. You know, there's a lot of stories from there that can connect in certain views of what you see, of what you learn. But a lot of people say, well, it's not written anywhere. It's not written here. You have to understand that a lot of these societies, a lot of these groups of fraternal, especially how Savat was, how escrima is, how Savat was, I'm saying, how escrima is that a lot of them were taught from the oral mouth to the ear, just like Masonry is taught. So that those traditions are there. You can see that connection. A lot of the history, people say, well, where did you find that? Especially in some of the books, they say it's nowhere in other books. If you haven't lived it, if you haven't been around those older generations, if you don't ask the questions, they're not going to tell you. So once you start asking the questions, they're going to tell you this happened in World War II, this happened here, this happened to this individual, this occurred, and you just put it back in your mind, or you write it down, and then somebody else, you ask another question. So when you start asking questions to the older professors, like what I did, and I'm pretty sure that's the same thing you're doing, and you've gone through, is you start putting the stories that were accurate. You know, they're more likely this is the story that happened, right? And people say, yeah, but it's nowhere written down. Well, somebody has to write it down for the first place, you know? And if it wasn't written down in the past, it was not. You know, they say, oh, it's only talking about methods. Where did you hear that? When you talk to the old ones, you know, like I talked with Count Barussi, who was in his 90s when I used to take care of him on Fridays, and Roger Lafon and Salvini and all those old teachers, Bob Alex and all these guys. You start learning what was going on in the past by the history that they're telling. They're teaching you by orally. So I'm just comparing that. You know, I'll get off that, but right now we're going back into escrima and what you think. Is that what happened to you, listening to the old teachers and old?
Well, yes. I've never done any, actual study on it, so it was always through oral transfer with the teachers that I had, other teachers. Well, I was really fortunate that in my younger days I was surrounded by these Filipino warriors, man, who migrated here to work as hard labor, to work in the fields in San Joaquin Valley, and so a lot of these guys were limited in their education. What I mean by that is because a lot of them only went to high school; they didn't have the opportunity to go to college. You see what I'm saying? And so, and then some had more education than others, but so when they came here, man, they gravitated to forming these fraternal brotherhood, and so they because they, it was something to that can unite them, and but with these guys having with their martial arts background, there was that tradition, of the Dorsey Party Society, which is different from Dorsey Party's Association out of Cebu. The Cañete Society is an older organization, and they had those traditions that was exclusively taught within their circle, so it was later on that they started sharing it to first the Filipinos locally here in Stockton, and then like especially Manong Angel Cabalas, he decided to open the schools to the public, and so the interesting thing is that there was an effort here by a few escrimadores to give the Filipino martial arts exposure, and obviously we can't deny the great contribution that Guro Dan, his contribution to open up that culture, to expose it, make it available. And then there were also others in the Philippines, like the Cañete family, and oh my gosh, the Cañete family, and then oh my gosh, and other escrimadores that came out of the Philippines to promote the martial arts, and so so I'm sorry, man, too much medication. Sometimes my mind goes blank, but so they started promoting the martial arts, and I think a big part of it, they found out that it was marketable, and because the Europeans wanted it, Americans wanted it, so in the Philippines, they were attracting foreigners, and to go to the Philippines, spend money and learn. So more and more started coming out to show what they had, man, and so and then over here in the United States, with Angel Cabalas here, the Stockton group, Angel Cabalas, Leo Hiron, Juan Acosta, Gilbert Chino, they became famous because Guro Dan, they had him, research them and give them exposure in his book. And then in Hawaii, Flora Villabril, and in the Bay Area, so Flora Villabril's group over here. So all of a sudden there was this great influx of people coming in to study the Filipino martial. It was something new, especially at that time with Bruce Lee. Everybody wanted to get into the martial arts. That really opened it up, because whether you're in Asia, the United States, Bruce Lee just his influence, man.
He influenced everybody.
Yes,
he influenced everybody, and he's a martial artist of the martial arts.
Yes.
And no matter what martial art you went to, Bruce Lee influenced you to take that martial art, and it opened the eyes to many. And Bruce Lee was, he was that's who he was. There were other martial artists out there that were better than he. There were other martial artists out there that knew more than he, but he's the one that went out there and embraced the world with the martial arts.
Yeah, man. People like that. The Presses, Remy Presses, Ernesto Presses, coming into the United States, really promoting it, and then others, eventually Bobby Taboada, and
Sure.
So they were just, it was just all over, man, and so that was the difference. It's just because now it became acceptable, because you see it in the movies, and then then there was pride in it. Okay, son, let's take our niece, or escrima, because this is our art, and then they started studying it, and then over here in Stockton, they started sharing it with their friends, and who are non-Filipinos. And then, it was a thing, man. Sticks? Oh my gosh, I saw Bruce Lee do that. so there it was, man, and so big, it was a big change in attitude, when it comes to from being pride to ending up being prideful to before it was, rejected, by our own Filipinos. Yeah. So
And I think that's what happened now is that everybody does it. You have parts of Filipino martial arts FMA inside most martial arts schools teach something or other of FMA, and but this is what I tell to the vast majority of those that are teaching FMA: pick a style that you like, pick a guru that you like, follow that guru, understand what he does, and go out there and search it. Because you all there in Stockton, you all are the root source base. I would say that, okay? Because that's basically where it started from out there. There might be others, and I don't want to insult anybody, but that's basically where the mecca of escrima is, in Stockton, California. Of course, LA has great teachers, and all over the place. There's great gurus and masters, but I think that's where it's at. So I tell people, go out there and visit, partake, learn the culture of, because it has a special little culture, Stockton, that it's unlike the rest of the U.S. And it's good to see you all together in some of these events, and for people to learn that.
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And if somebody wants to get in touch with you, my brother, where can they call you, or how can they get in touch?
I have a Facebook presence, just Carlito Bonjoc, and also for informational purposes, I have a website, bagyo.net, bagyo.net, and just for informational purposes, you can access that. And then a lot of people just contact me through Facebook, or they'll call my phone. It's just because my phone number is published, and so that's how they contact me. So my email is msbboc@yahoo.com, and phone number is 209-992-0832. And yeah. So, and if you come into Stockton, there's a shopping center called Sherwood Shopping Center, Sherwood Mall. I'm sorry, Sherwood Mall. It's changing now, and it's not going to be an indoor mall anymore. And but we're there with my buddy David Garmany, Discovery Martial Arts, and that's our headquarters. And so we teach their Filipino martial arts program, and the one that runs that program is Guru or Master Sambat Sambun. Yeah. So
he's a great gentleman, and I suggest everybody out there, if you guys want to learn, get more information, make other friends, contact Guro Carlito. That's the best way, and you'll see a different world. There's others out there too, so you can.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, you'll learn from everybody there. And right now, I'll post some videos that we've had with Carlito doing some workshops, and if you click on top right here, you can end up knowing that that's what the video's at. So
Yeah.
you guys should see him in action. But I want to thank you for that little piece of history that you talked about, and we will see you soon. You get well, and God bless you and bless your family.
Thank you, brother.
And for folks out there, you guys stay safe and keep on training, because that's the only way we're going to get better, is train and get to know other people, because they'll clean up your mistakes if you have any. Until next time, peace.
All right, peace. Take care, brother.